The Masonic membership crisis. Is it real? Does it matter? Is there anything we can do about it? Come join us as we investigate the 4 myths of the Masonic membership crisis and its 5 realities in the first of our 2-part series. This is the Resurgence of Freemasonry YouTube channel hosted by Mark Koltko-Rivera. If you want to learn how we can make Freemasonry stronger than it has ever been, and why we should, be sure to click the subscribe button below this video. Together, we can do this. The fact of the matter is, Freemasonry is clearly in a membership crisis. Surprisingly, the responses of many Freemasons fall into a triangle of defeatism, with angles of denial, apathy, and despair. In this video, I hope to explode the myths and share the realities, including some really encouraging surprises. Let's start the countdown with myth number 4. This is just the passing of the greatest generation. Many Masons believe that the reason membership is dropping is because a great mass of veterans joined the fraternity after World War II, and now these brethren are laying down their working tools and passing into the celestial lodge above. Reality number 4. Those ships have long since sailed. For the most part, the greatest generation passed in their 50s and 60s and 70s, in the 1970s and 1980s, and some in the 1990s. There are still some hardy souls carrying on, but these brethren have been relatively few in number for a full generation. The Masonic membership crisis is not just a product of the passing of the greatest generation. That entire way of thinking is simply one form of denial. If it's not the passing of the greatest generation, then why is the crisis happening? There are 2 top-level reasons for the crisis. A drop in the number of petitions that stretches back for generations, and a dramatic rise in voluntary demits, and especially dismissals from the craft for non-payment of dues, or NPDs. Now that raises 2 questions. Why have the number of petitions dropped? Why have the number of NPDs risen? Those are important questions indeed, which I will address in detail in future videos. Myth number 3. This is just part of a cycle. Some Masons believe that, like the business cycle, there are booms and busts in Masonic membership, and we just happen to be in a low part of the membership cycle. Reality number 3. There is no overall cycle. Sure, there are individual lodges, even whole Masonic districts, that are doing very well and growing after a period of decline. But in the overall national picture of the United States, things are going terribly, and they have been going terribly for generations. Look at it this way. Masonic membership peaked in 1959, and it has been dropping every single year since then. The U.S. national trend shows up very clearly in all of the largest U.S. Grand Lodges since at least 2002 as well. It is that way in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas, Illinois, Indiana, and California, which together comprise the 6 largest Grand Lodges in the United States. We can say the same about most American Grand Lodges. For the record, the national trend is also clearly reflected in the 2 Grand Lodges where I hold Masonic membership, Florida and New York, as well as in neighboring New Jersey. Incidentally, all of these charts are built on data from the Masonic Service Association of North America. I give a link to their membership statistics page in the description to this video below. The whole idea that the membership crisis is just part of a cycle is another form of denial. I don't see a cycle here. I see a car driving off a cliff. Myth number 2. It's all for the better anyway. Some Masons believe that the shrinking of Masonry is just fine. In their way of thinking, there are too many mediocre Masons, and we're much better off as they leave and a much smaller society of high-quality members remains. Reality number 2A. This way of thinking has it all backwards. It assumes that it's the members of low commitment to Masonic ideals who are leaving, and the members who really get Freemasonry who are staying. And that is a very questionable assumption. I think we all know from personal experience that there are Masons who seem to be sincerely attracted to our ideals who have left, being discouraged by the presence and the behavior of members without a strong Masonic vision, who have nonetheless remained. Reality 2B. A shrunken fraternity cannot fulfill the greater Masonic mission. The fact is, Freemasonry has always had, as part of its purpose, the improvement of society as a whole. But the membership crisis makes it more and more difficult for the fraternity to pursue this mission. Look at it this way. In 1927, Masons comprised about 8.5% of all adult males in the United States. That's one man out of about 12. At that point, we could have had an impact on American and even global society. But in 2016, Masons comprised about 1% of all adult males, about one man out of 100. It's much harder for us to have a positive impact on society when we're such a small portion of that society. If we maintain the status quo and business as usual, we are right on track to have Masons comprise 0.33% of adult males. That's 1/3 of 1% by 2040. That's about one man out of 300. Clearly, we'll have little to no effect on society by that point. Masonry will have abandoned its social mission long before then. The idea that it's just fine for Masonry to become vanishingly small is a form of apathy. It's the product of a very limited vision of what Freemasonry is about. Masonry has a mission. In part, that mission is to promote the well-being of all humankind. To actually carry out that mission, it's not a matter of quantity versus quality. We need to have a quantity of quality Masons. And making that happen is what the Resurgence of Freemasonry is all about. I'll tell you about the number one myth of the Masonic membership crisis and the very encouraging reality number one. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by the School of Freemasonry Books, which publishes my book, The Mysteries of Freemasonry. This is a collection of some of my Masonic essays. For example, Chapter 15 contains an updated version of my landmark talk, The Resurgence of Freemasonry, Why It Is Necessary and How It Can Be Accomplished. This book is available right now on Amazon, both in paperback and on Kindle. Look for the link to the Amazon page in the description below this video. This video is also brought to you by our Patreon campaign. It takes a lot of time and effort to produce the sorts of detailed videos that we present on this channel. We need your support to be able to do that. A pledge of $5 monthly, even $1, will make a big difference. Look for a link to our Patreon campaign in the description. It's time to reveal the final myth of the Masonic membership crisis and the corresponding, very positive reality. Myth number one: we're just doomed. Some Masons believe that there's nothing that can be done to turn the membership crisis around. The trend is too long-standing, the reasons underlying it too powerful, and the sheer inertia of Masonry, its resistance to change, too strong to overcome. As this way of thinking goes, there's nothing to do but just carry on while we can, as long as we can, as we become a tiny fraternity of complete insignificance to society at large. This, my brethren, is despair. Reality number one: we can turn this around. I know this to be true because we have turned it around before. I'm thinking of the revival of Masonry after the anti-Masonic period of the earlier 19th century. The growth of the fraternity during the revival was truly astonishing. The case of Masonry in New York State, the location of the Morgan incident itself, is especially instructive. You will recall that in 1826, the former Mason turned anti-Mason, William Morgan, was kidnapped by renegade Masons and was never seen again. Following this, the United States entered an extended period now known as the anti-Masonic era. Lodges were sacked by mobs, and multitudes of Masons abandoned the fraternity. New York Masonry shrank from 20,000 members to 3,000 members during the anti-Masonic era. But from 1835 to 1873, New York Masonry grew from that 3,000 to 79,000. By 1922, that number had grown to over 286,000 Freemasons in New York. When it comes to the resurgence of Freemasonry, the message here is clear. We've done it before. We can do it again, and much faster than they did it a century and a half ago, through the wise use of modern communications technology. Exactly how we should go about doing that in the 21st century is the main subject of this YouTube channel and will feature prominently in many of our future videos. Despair is not the answer. Hard work, wisely directed, is the answer. Together, we can do this. In this video, I've laid out the sad story of the facts of the Masonic membership crisis. In our next video, I'll describe the underlying reasons for the crisis and solutions for everyone. Watch for our next video, The Masonic Membership Crisis, Part 2, 5 Reasons, 5 Solutions. If you find these ideas interesting, please subscribe to the Resurgence of Freemasonry YouTube video channel below. If you liked this video in particular, please do hit the like button below too, and feel free to share this video on your social media. Visit our Facebook page for more interesting content. Support our work on Patreon in order to see more videos like this. Links to our Facebook page and our Patreon campaign are in the description below. Let us know in the comments below whether we've given you value for your time. And if there's something specific that you would like us to present a video about, please let us know that too. This has been Mark Koltko-Rivera for the Resurgence of Freemasonry video channel on YouTube.